Hello and welcome to episode 46 of Match It and the Other Guy. And as ever, Kevin and I are sitting outside my home on the banks of Lake Wylie in Charlotte, North Carolina. Kevin, how are you today?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for asking. I never know the subject of our conversations. I've also never understood why we do it this way, but after 46 episodes, I don't suppose it's ever going to change.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. Hopefully, therefore, you do know what we're going to be talking about.
Fortunately, yes.
Fill us in. What are we talking about today?
Well, kind of recently, you probably remember we've started a number of episodes with either 3 letters or, in the case of James Bond, 3 numbers.
Okay.
I'm going back to the 3 letters.
Okay.
SNL.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yes, Saturday Night Live.
Exactly.
This is going to be very much a Kevin-heavy episode here because I don't think we ever used to get it on the other side of the Atlantic.
Well, that was going to be part of my, investigative part of this is how much of it did you get? When did you start getting it? And what was your introduction to it?
Well, I've got to tell you, I am aware of it in the United States. I've probably seen 3 or 4 of them at tops, I would say, really.
Really?
Yes. It's never been, I've always been doing other things. And I think if I'd have been introduced to Saturday Night Live as a kid, I would have been addicted to it, as many people are. And I understand and appreciate it's a tremendous success and a part of Americana. But I missed out on that. But I am nevertheless fascinated to hear your take on it. A little bit like MTV and your association with MTV. Tell me why Saturday Night Live has become this cultural icon that it has become.
Well, iconic definitely comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's been around, it'll be 50 years old in, 4 years?
Okay,
it started
wow.
in 75.
Yeah.
So to think that something like that's been around for nearly 5 decades is pretty amazing in its own right. And what a reflection of American culture it is weekly.
Right.
It's on topic of what's going on that week in the country or in the world, and giving in a comical way. But it definitely, people have said a lot of it has effect on presidential elections. Just the way that they portray or whatever the candidates during election year.
Well, I'm going to suggest, and again, I've just explained that I have very little knowledge of it, but I'm going to suggest from my years in television, 20 years in American television, that you just answered your own question there when you said who would have thought it would have lasted so long and why it has been around so long. It's because, I would say, pop culture, which never goes out of style.
Yeah, and it's
the same thing. It's the thing that keeps The Simpsons fresh, that keeps Family Guy fresh. Is there's always something in the news for the next episode to take on board, and in this case, mock or at least explore.
Yeah, and when you're going live, literally, you can edit down to I couldn't tell you what they probably it'd be a good piece of trivia to find out what was the story that they could turn around the fastest. Did something happen on Saturday evening that they actually said we can make this happen by 11:30? Have a skit ready, that type of thing.
I bet
it'd be amazing to see what they do.
Well, if you've got brilliant actors, comic actors, brilliant performers who are able to turn on a dime and become someone. I mean, great acting, that I've always been told, is about portraying emotion. If you can portray emotion, you're an actor, great actor, or an actress. I think if you've got a cast that can instantly become whoever is needed to be, president, vice president, doesn't matter, whatever character needs to be portrayed. I think you could get writers to come up with a skit fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's not going to be the most polished, terribly amusing sketch they've done, but I bet they could turn it around pretty quick.
Yeah. And it's hard. You don't want to with it even being around this long, you don't want to say it evolved because it's really still the same general format it started with in 75.
Yeah.
But now we do have a fresh crop of actors that have come and gone. You'll have this, they say the era of, whatever, they'll say that cast or whatever. And then there's some that have carried on for, well over 10 years and are just staples of the show.
Now, and educate me here then. I know many people have had successful careers through their association with Saturday Night Live. But I've also heard that if you don't gel with the cast and crew, it can have absolutely the opposite effect, and
I'm sure.
it's over.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many tales of that. I mean, there's definitely superstars that have come out of it. You know, your Will Ferrell's, your Adam Sandler's, oh gosh, Mike Myers. I mean, the list goes on. But then there's a lot of players that, you know, I may remember them in, you know, their era and stuff like that, but you can't say what they're doing today to save your life. So, and then some that were maybe on a season. You know, I'm not sure what the shortest stint ever was.
Yes,
but.
And again, I'm guessing that a lot of the names you've mentioned and a lot of other great names have a background in comedy and stand-up comedy.
Most do.
And again, I think that's probably, when we're talking about how quickly they can turn sketches around, that's that training, isn't it? I would say it's that instant, got to react to what the audience is doing. Don't do that, as they say, play to the room or read the room. And if the room isn't liking the direction that your jokes are leading, you've got to change them and go somewhere else. So you've got to turn, you've got to improvise, you've got to move fast. And I guess that's the secret of it.
Yeah. And then there's some that were writers that didn't start off planning to ever be on camera, and next thing you know, they've moved them out onto camera, and then they become part of the cast. And they are found that they're very well received or very talented at doing something, and become a regular part of the on-camera part of the evening.
Yes, and so in terms of its longevity, the show, has it never been off air for any period of time? It's been a constant from.
It's been
for 50 years.
Every year there's been a season of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, wow.
Now, of course, they go on hiatus during the summer like anybody.
Yes.
So there's reruns, you know, right now.
Okay.
And soon to come back. But they run because they need breaks and stuff just like everybody else. But yeah, they will run. Yeah, they've been running every season since '75. And of course, you know, there's ups and downs. You know, some that say, you know, the greatest era was the early stuff with your Bill Murray, your John Belushi, your Dan Aykroyd, your Gilda Radner, all that. I remember it, but barely, because, you know, got to think when it launched, I was 6, so I generally wasn't watching it. I so little remember any of that late '70s kind of cultural icons talk at school.
Yeah.
Where somebody, you know, maybe they have an older sibling, so they stay up with them and watch it. My era that I remember really connecting with early on, and where we would talk about it at school, and you always didn't miss it, was the early '80s, and that was your Eddie Murphy, your Jim Belushi, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh wow!
I think there's Brad Hall, I think was in that era. Who's married to Julia Louis-Dreyfus to this day.
Yeah. Well, there it is again. I mean, I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself, but I'm fascinated by what you're telling me, and I've always wondered about how these shows work. All the actors, actresses, performers you've mentioned, they all seem naturally gifted to instantly change direction or become somebody else, like instantly, you know, and I think that's a great thing. Well, yeah, all of those, yeah.
Well, I mean, Lorne Michaels is the creator, and he gets a lot of credit. I think he's very immensely talented at finding talent.
Yeah.
That will gel and fit with the group and the cast that he's got going, and such like that. The irony is, I think it's widely known that the worst year ever was the '86 season.
Why was that?
I don't know. I think maybe they had a bad dip in the writing. But here's the irony. During that time, they had famous actors. Yeah. Now, they might have been part of the problem. They had Robert Downey Jr. They had Anthony Michael Hall. They had Joan Cusack. I think all those were part of that '86 cast. And they had already been major movie actors and actresses.
But now, but isn't that more evidence of what we've just been discussing, that maybe these names that you've mentioned they don't have that ability to change on a dime?
Yeah, maybe because they were so used to being on set where you've gotten multiple takes and such like that.
Yeah, I wonder. It could well be the case. Again, I'm learning from everything you're telling me, but my gut feeling is that is exactly perhaps the problem was that you're now mentioning names that are well known for appearing in movies, appearing on the stage, and multiple takes, and not having to move so fast.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Quite so. And there's throughout all the years, there's definitely, a couple of years where there maybe was a lull where things just weren't as good or something like that. And then, all of a sudden they've changed the cast, and boom, they get these iconic characters that are brought back.
Yeah.
not every week, but maybe every couple of weeks. That just then boom, it's just skyrocketing again in popularity because people want to see those repeated characters.
And I wonder as well if when you have a particular group of performers together, you have great success from one group like you describe, or not so much from another group, is because like when any notable team come together, they know to work in the same direction. It's kind of an instinctive thing.
Yeah.
And I'm falling back. You can probably sense this already. I'm falling back on my service with Benetton in Formula One, and I know that if you have the right people in the right team at the right time, they will all help each other to advance in the same direction. But what you don't want is to have one or two that believe they are a star. And there are a few designers, there are a few great leaders and strategists that want to expand the ability of everybody in the team, and there are others that simply can't do that and want to be recognized as the star designer or the star engineer, and it doesn't work in the same way. And I would suggest that's exactly what is happening with different ensembles of characters or performers in Saturday Night Live, that when you get the right group together that want to, hey, you remember, why don't you do that? You're much better at doing that than I am. You take that role, and then everybody advances.
Yeah,
I would say, I wouldn't be at all surprised at that.
Yeah, because I mean, in any given season, any given year, you are going to have the ones that are breaking out, and then there's more of the support people.
Yeah,
they're just never going to be pulled out to do a major motion picture. They're never going to be a leading man or leading woman in their own film. But they'll stay for a few years, and a number of years sometimes, and do great quality work. And usually, even in the skits, they don't have their own character, their background or
supporting players.
Exactly.
But they're essential to make everything else work.
Absolutely,
I think, aren't they? Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll just their line may be the best line of the night. Maybe it'll be the best line of the skit, and maybe the best line of the whole show that night. And it's how audiences react to the joke or the premise or the scenario.
I think there are folks in the world that understand teamwork, and there are folks in the world that can never understand teamwork. But when you see that come together, then it works. It works really well. Yeah.
Well, you've got a lot of backtracking to do over 50 years if you've only seen 3 episodes. We've got to get you seeing some of these. Well, the great thing is about YouTube, you can go on and just watch a sketch now. You don't have to watch the whole episode.
Yeah, and I've done that.
You can get the cream of the crop. And,
yeah.
and I could sit here and ramble off just some that I just would just love to watch any given time that are just, iconic. And it maybe goes back 30 years.
Well, I have to say, we've said it before, but I don't mind talking about it. But despite the fact that I've worked in American television now for 21 years, I am probably one of the worst for actually not watching that much television. I guess yes, I do. We all watch television, but I'm not very good at. It's a bit like my reading is exactly the same. I will tend to read the same 5 authors over and over again and not expand my range of different writings. And I'm pretty much the same with TV. I immerse myself into a particular genre of TV, but not expand out, which is a failing of mine. Again, especially when I say I work in television. But there we are.
Well, too. I mean, there's so much out there. So these days.
Well, yes. Well, now there.
Begin to tap everything.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, we've certainly talked about it. I'm not sure whether or not our gentle listener has been part of the conversation as well. But now, because of all the streaming services, it's impossible to keep up with. Hey, did you see, show ABC yesterday? No, because I don't have Hulu. I have Netflix. Or, well, it's, if you don't have Netflix, you have Hulu, or you only have Amazon Prime, and you don't have the others. There are endless shows that might be fantastic, but you never get a chance to see them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I'll always put it to record Saturday Night Live, because, again, I don't stay up like I used to either. And the chances, and they always have that. You got to think the show starts at 11:30. It always has.
Okay.
And it goes to 1. Of course, they're going to put their best stuff out at the 11, earlier in the show, because they know they're losing listeners completely over that hour and a half.
Right.
And it's always been that way. Usually, your best stuff's up front, and the supporting skits that kind of made it into that week's plan or toward the end.
And that classic opening of my limited experience of it, I would describe in TV as the cold open, where you're straight into a sketch and then, and it's Saturday night. That's been a staple from day one, has it? That's always been the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't. I mean, this would be a good go back and find out who. I think it was George Carlin was the first night or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It'd be funny to go back and I bet you just write up on YouTube the very first moments of Saturday Night Live, which I need to look that up and give that a try.
That will be there for sure. Yeah.
But that's the other point is you got to think too. You have these ensembles that work together and have been changed over the years. But every week there's a guest host who's in all these, not all, but in many of the sketches.
Right.
So you're throwing in a variable each week, and talk about luck of the draw. I mean, you may get someone that completely blows it out of the water.
Yes.
And you may get somebody that is just dreadful to work with and has no comic timing whatsoever. And you can look all this stuff up too and find out which ones, generally on lists and stuff, which were horrible and which were
So that begs
surprises.
the question, if you're putting the show together and you need to get this week's star booked, aren't folks aware that certain actors and actresses, famous names, are likely to be absolutely terrible in that environment? You'd think.
But they're hot. Right. They got a movie coming out. They're a hot commodity right now.
Well, yeah, I can see that.
And they branch out pretty darn well. It's not always an actor. I mean, it's been many times sports stars. This past year they had Elon Musk.
I was just about to say, you took the words. I was just thinking of odd characters. Elon Musk, absolutely. Yeah.
And I thought he did for what he does. It had nothing to do with the entertainment world. I thought he did a good job. I liked his episode. I thought I enjoyed his quirkiness.
Yeah.
In the episode, and some, like I say, do just. Peyton Manning was a really good. He's of course the quarterback, famed quarterback. And he did a really good episode. I really liked his. He's one of the best, I think, sports.
But Peyton Manning, I mean, again, I talk like I know him. I don't know him at all, of course. But he seems to have a natural ease with the camera.
Yes.
I'm thinking of his advertisements. When you see him being interviewed, he's very at ease with the camera. Some folks, guys and gals, aren't at ease with the camera, and you've got to get over that for a start. And, you mentioned Elon Musk, and I'm thrilled to hear you say that Elon Musk did a good job, because I can remember thinking at the time, Elon Musk, done amazing things in his business life. Sure, we're all aware of that, but how comfortable is he when the little light on top of the camera glows red and they say go?
Yeah.
I mean, you can either do it or you can't do it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the evening and everything kind of played to his quirkiness.
Yes.
And I think it played well. So I'll give them that one. But yeah, there's some that are just, and they will, then they'll do, some are just musicians.
Right.
And on a fairly rare occasion, they'll do where not only are they the host, they're the musical guest.
Yeah.
Because they always have a musical guest too. So you always have a guest host every week that's different, and you have a musical guest.
Okay.
And they'll do two musical numbers during the evening. One, kind of, I guess, 1/3 the way through, and the other one maybe 2/3 the way through the evening.
If you're the guest host, if one is the guest host, let's put it that way, of next week's episode and next week's show, I'm probably answering my question or being naive in asking it, but you have at maximum a week to rehearse.
I think I've heard this many times from people that have been interviewed about their time. I think they always start on Monday with initial meetings. They have a certain system that's been there for decades.
Yeah.
Monday is the initial meetups and talk about writing and
make sure you take
pitching ideas,
donuts and coffee for the crew.
Exactly.
That's one of those things.
And then you just start breaking it down in a very methodical way.
Yeah.
As they go through the weekdays, getting ready for Saturday night. And
it must be huge. It must be huge pressure. It must be, because all of the United States is watching that one performance, as you say, at 11:30. And if it's live, I mean, I've done live TV, and there are two ways of looking at live TV. I mean, I'm not suggesting that the pressure or anything that the sportscasters are under is anywhere near what it must be like to do Saturday Night Live. But the saving grace of doing live TV, from my experience, that's all I can talk about, is this again seems an obvious thing to say, there's not going to be a second take. And in some odd way, that relaxes you. It relaxes me because, and I know I can, Lee Diffie, David Hobbs, the same. You've only got to get one chance at it. And so it seems to take away the pressure to a degree of the performance. Now, I've seen this time and time again. If we are recording a piece, one of us will get it wrong and think, well, now we can stop. Well, we can do it again. We can do it again now. That's not a problem because we can do it. But some of those recorded segments can take 10 times as long because as soon as one person screws it up, the next person screws their line up, and you have to do it again and again and again. Or somebody will say, I wish I'd not said that happened in the 1990 Grand Prix when it was actually in the 91 Grand Prix. Well, if it's a live take, you just got to roll with it.
Yeah.
You know, somebody will correct you on social media. That's just TV for you. But yes, so that's live TV. I think it does it in a way, in a quirky way. It can relax the performers because they have but one go at it. Whatever you do when the camera goes live, you make sure it's right. And if it's not, roll with it and get over it.
And there's something probably in some little corner of the back of your brain that says, okay, don't blurt out any obscenities. Don't do anything that's going to offend people or anything. There's something kind of keeping you in check, I guess, when you're live.
I suppose so. But it is most definitely, it's very much a different animal, a whole different experience from being live to recording segments. But again, the pressure that a guest host must be under for Saturday Night Live when they're not part of that cast week in, week out. So everybody is new to them, really, right? And they may be, keep picking on Elon, it could be anybody, but Elon Musk in this case is most definitely not from the world of entertainment. And to go on that show and make sure he gets it right when the little light goes red, it must be huge pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned the live TV. I mean, what little opportunities I've had to be on TV. I have been on the local morning show two or three times, and it's always live.
Yeah.
So my experience has only been live. I don't think I've ever been anywhere where I was recorded and read other than us doing anything related to what we do. But we always do this and let it roll anyway.
I thought yes, yeah, but we do make mistakes during this one, don't we? But we just roll with it. You're right. Now I'm going to say the same thing happens to me when I record. Let's say if I'm working with Mecum and doing little 60-second hits on a particular car at a Mecum auction, and I love working with Mecum. They're a great bunch to work with, and they're very relaxed and very laid back. But I find if I can get that 60-second hit on a particular, let's say it's a Ferrari F40, it doesn't matter. If I can get that hit on the Ferrari F40 the first time, that's how it should be. 60 seconds, and I'm pretty good. I don't know how, but I'm pretty good at timing myself that if the producer directors need a minute, I can get to within a couple of seconds just by, I don't know how that happens, but I'm okay at doing that. But if I do fluff something, I think, I've got to do that again. I will find that I'll do it 5 times before I get it right again.
Yeah.
It's either the first time or it's 6 takes to get it right.
Yeah, you've got it in your head now.
It's exactly that. It is exactly that. Yes.
Now, there's been plenty of times watching SNL where they've, messed up or something. And the best ones are when somebody gets cracked up. And they start losing it.
Right.
And it's infectious through everybody in the same scene.
Yeah.
And those have become actually some of the best, things to go back and watch again. And you think about it, probably wasn't the best skit. And it's usually not one of the iconic repeated roles. It's not like it's the church lady or it's, samurai store owner with John Belushi did and stuff like that. It was, it'd just be some oddball one and then somebody would get to losing it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But that's happened numerous of times. Or a faulty prop or something like that will mess up, something like that.
Yes,
but it is live, so it's there for forever.
What do they call that? Corpsing, when you just can't continue on because you're so, you're laughing to yourself so much. But sometimes you have to work around those things, and that's I've had examples of that in live TV as well. Particularly, I mean, I can think of a couple of occasions. We're getting off Saturday Night Live, but just thinking about live TV, when at NBC doing Formula One post-race shows would be Lee Diffie, David Hobbs and me on set, and Lee would look over to me to try and there's this little sort of unwritten code that in this case, when Lee wants to ask me a question, he will kind of look over to me while David is talking in the middle. And that'll be the cue to me. Well, like, we don't need to use words or hand signals, but he'll come to me for the next question. But then the producer, the director will say, wrap it up, David. We've only got 20 seconds to go, and we've got to get another point in. And David will just carry on as David does. And then I will look over to Lee, and Lee will look over to me, and you can see we're almost starting to cry with laughter because David's just doing his thing. Uh-huh. But that's exactly the same thing. You have to work around it. You come and you find a way to work around it. Yeah. But I can imagine if you're on set, particularly with a prop. I mean, if a prop breaks halfway through the skit, what are you supposed to do? Your hand is played, as they say.
Yeah, it's happened definitely a few times on there.
Yeah. But I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed live TV as much as some folks don't like it, and I get that. But it's never really fazed me, even from the first time I was on camera. I'm sure I like to believe I've got better over the years, but it's never really fazed me being on live TV. But I know that some folks hate it, and many great actors and actresses, of course, we mentioned earlier on, when you have the ability to do take after take after take during a movie. What's that great? I'm thinking of Marilyn Monroe. I mean, I know we're going back some years now. Marilyn Monroe in Some Like It Hot. I think her line was something like, "Hey sugar," or "Hey honey." This is the line. It's "Hey honey, it's me, sugar." Was the line from Marilyn. I think they were doing that for like 2 hours before she could get this simple line out. Because she couldn't get it right. But of course, if it was live, it wouldn't be a live movie, obviously. But if it was a live show, whatever she says is what's going out to the audience. Yeah.
Well, with your comfort level on live TV, maybe Lauren is listening to our podcast. Maybe he'll book you in.
Well, you never know. They'd be stuck for guests if they had to come over to us, wouldn't they? And say, "How about you two come and host for us?"
Oh, now I'm in the mix too.
Well, we're doing the podcast together.
Well, like I said, I did those 3 morning shows, so hey, I'm an old hat out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such an iconic. I guess there's really no other show that's been around for that length that really reflects the America of that time.
Yes.
So it'd be interesting to watch them, just all in sequence and stuff, and just see, how it reflects the world and stuff like that. And they definitely tackle in comedic way, or their own way of bigger issues,
sure,
in the U.S. and the world at the time.
Yeah. And again, a little like MTV, although over in England, I can never remember watching episodes of Saturday Night Live. We did have our different short-lived versions of it. I could tell that that's where the idea had come from, And
America did the same. They had multiples try to emulate it.
But nothing has ever come close to the popularity and the long-lasting success of Saturday Night Live. And I'm far from expert in it, but from what you've told me, it seems like there's nothing to beat it.
No, I think, if you go back to I'm sure there's some the soap operas that have stayed, and then I think Meet the Press is the single longest going show in TV
but
history.
in that genre,
but to have anything that stayed in its essential time slot and been there through generations now, and has no sign of ever slowing or stopping.
No, and to go back full circle to where we started this conversation, I'm sure that's the same reason why long-running shows, The Simpsons has got to be the classic example. That's the same thing where, to me, it can go through waves of some episodes are far more amusing than other episodes, but there is always something to talk about. You can always make a show based on what's happened yesterday.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's most certainly the case with, in more recent years, with Family Guy. I mean, they're very good at picking up on popular culture references from only last week. And South Park.
South Park will turn. Yeah. I mean, I swear one time I watched an episode. They were Wednesday night, and they already had it in there, something that happened the day before. Because they use it. Animation is so basic that probably within the day before it aired, they were able to put it in the show. That's amazing.
My understanding of South Park is that, and again, I'm far from experts on this, but I know a little bit about most things, but not very much about anything, is I think the South Park animation is now all computer driven. although it still looks like it's handcrafted.
Yeah, it was like it's cut out of the construction
Yeah,
paper.
but I think computer technology now does that for them, so
sure
that
it
must
does.
make it far easier. But I mean, you're still up against the clock in terms of the logistics of turning the show around.
Yeah.
Right.
Something has to be in the can to be broadcast.
You've got to hand it from A to B to C to D to get it on air. Nevertheless, it's got to be. You come up with the animation, then you've got to do the voiceover. You've got to get that correct. Then you've got to blend those two together. It's got to be whatever else other procedures of getting the show together. Then it's got to end up at the network, and as you said, then it's got to go on air.
Yeah.
You're right. So being able to turn those things around very quickly is in itself a brilliant skill. But you're right. I hadn't mentioned South Park, but they are another classic example of pop culture never goes out of style. There's always something to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah.
A new topic each week, and we never know what it's going to be or whatever. And
Yeah.
like say you throw, especially with SNL, you throw an election year in the mix, and my gosh, it can get wild.
Well, that was fascinating because again, I always enjoy our conversations because I always end up learning something.
Well, good.
And
Then I've done my purpose.
my work here is done.
My work here has done.
Right. But many great names have come out of Saturday Night Live and gone on to bigger and better things, which is proof of the pudding, as they say. It works. But yeah, I like that idea. I like to believe that anyway, that what makes that show a great success in its high periods of great success is teamwork. I think that's a cool thing.
I think that is.
When a team works in the right direction, it's a great thing to see. Yeah. Well, we better bring this episode to a close, hadn't we?
I think so.
Gentle listener, I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed that very much, Kevin.
Okay.
And we'll see you all again on another episode of Match It and the Other Guy. Bye for now.
Bye for now.